A lot of concerned employers and employees as the virus threat erodes the Australian economy. But the banks are trying to ease some of the potential pain, giving small businesses and some mortgage holders relief from their repayments.
After surviving fires and floods, Chris Neal says his sound and lighting business was crippled in a day.
When government issued that no events were recommended above 500, every bit of business just literally ceased from that moment.
Every phone call we received here on Monday was a cancellation. The phone was ringing hot with cancellations.
It's one story among thousands as jobs, careers, businesses and lives are shut down by the rapid worldwide lockdown aimed at slowing the spread of a virus.
Biggest problem for us, we had to let go of a whole lot of casual staff on Monday. That was very hard to do.
Australia's state, territory and federal governments are scrambling to try and build a floor under the fall of businesses like Eclipse.
We're going to keep Australia running.
But that will demand a joint national wartime effort.
All Australians are going to be making sacrifices, obviously, in the months ahead.
Today, the banks joined the fight to keep businesses alive.
Australian banks will defer loan repayments for small businesses for 6 months where those businesses need assistance as a result of COVID-19.
But the Big Four went further. All pledged to defer principal and interest payments on variable mortgage rates and business loans for up to 6 months. There was also an array of cuts to interest rates.
Small business is our primary responsibility because they're the ones who are employing people. But let's not forget that certainly at ANZ, about a third of our homeowners are actually self-employed people. You know, they're landscapers, they're accountants, they're all sorts of people. So they need a hand up on this too.
It was hailed by government.
It's a game changer, and it's part of our efforts with industry, with the states, to build a bridge to the recovery.
But it's just one part of a puzzle so complex and costly that the states and the Commonwealth have deferred their budgets to the end of the year.
And it's important that we are able to deliver a budget at a time where there is more certainty about the economic environment.
Each new restriction turns out the lights on hundreds of businesses, and the longer the shutdown runs, the greater the damage will be.
Australia, there's 190,000 people in our industry, with a roll-on effect to everybody in our industry. The people that sell food, the cleaners, the fencing guys, the marquee guys, everybody's laid off staff.
This nightmare will end.
We will get to the other side, and on the other side, Australia will be stronger.
But it will be scarred and changed deeply and forever. Chris Ullman, 9 News.
So to find out whether these relief measures will keep businesses afloat, we're joined by Peter Strong, the CEO of the Council of Small Businesses of Australia. Peter, good evening to you. What feedback are you getting so far from your members?
Well, when the announcement was made, I had text messages coming in saying this is fantastic, this was unbelievable, we didn't think this would happen. It really sent a great message, and it did. Congratulations to Matt Coman and to Anna Bligh, who head up the Australian Banking Association. They did really well. Now, we need more, but gee, it's a really good outcome. A lot of businesses will use this. We had one business say to us, this means I can keep my workers on. It's a business that still has customers coming through the door, not as many, and the owner said, I can now keep my workers on, and I couldn't before. I was really worried. There's other businesses, of course, because that this doesn't bring more customers through the door, they still have to close. There's others that will get sick, there's others that this will impact, but it sends a great message. It will keep tens of thousands of businesses open that might have closed.
So, no doubt an encouraging start, but when you say we need more, what will that look like? What would you like to see?
Well, because we're retrenching staff and we work with these people, they're like family, we've heard that quite often. It's Sunday's announcement when we see what happens with the welfare area, what's going to go on with New Start. Will Centrelink be able to deliver? They're going to have to pick up their ball game if we're going to get through this without people being hurt. So they're the sorts of things we want to hear. There's grants, there may be wage subsidies. We really want to look and see what sort of training response we get, because we're going to have a lot of idle people stuck at home. There's been a lot of development of online training, and I think that's an area where we can do a lot. It have to be paid for. We can do a lot of literacy and numeracy with some of our new arrivals. So we can do a lot of positive activity there and give people something to do. So let's see what happens on Sunday. That's the next step. But today was a really good announcement for the economy, and it means when we come out of this, that we're going to be in a better position than we would have been before because of this announcement.
Peter, loan relief is one thing, but what about cash flow? How do we entice people to go out and spend and keep these businesses going?
Well, and thank you. That is the great question that we talk among ourselves. Our members come together and one minute you're feeling quite upset. We all know the feeling. You think, what can we do about this? And then we develop scenarios. We said, let's talk about scenarios. That'll make us focus. And that's what we've been doing now for about a month, is saying what happens if all the transport closes down? What happens here? What happens there? And we come up with scenarios and we look at how we can come up with responses for that, and that we leave those phone calls feeling a bit better, that at least we've talked about it. But talking to customers, people in Australia want to support small businesses. It's just a thing we hear all the time. So we have to step up to the mark. I noticed the hairdressers are doing that. They've always been clean. I mean, they're always shampooing things, but now they're saying, look, we're going the extra step. We're doing a lot more than we did before. And please, if you need your hair done or whatever, you can come in, feel secure. We've got gloves. Our staff are tested, or whatever it is. I don't think they are tested yet, but we are very secure. So if you need something done, come and see us. And people respond to that. They'll make their own decisions. A lot of home deliveries now coming out of favourite restaurants. I see one of the famous restaurants in Melbourne has now started doing home deliveries for the first time ever. Be expensive home deliveries, but if people want something special, they'll get it, they'll ring up and they'll get it delivered. Your local cafe, all these sorts of things. People will change how we do things, how we communicate and how we get products out there.
All right, we'll have to leave it there for now. Peter Strong, we greatly appreciate your input. Thank you. Jails across the country are banning personal visits to protect guards and adult inmates from being exposed to COVID-19. Corrective services in the states and territories will decide individually when to introduce the new measure. Authorities in New South Wales say they're exploring the use of audio-visual technology to connect prisoners with their families and their lawyers. The ripple effect of the virus has hit in unexpected ways. The latest, an announcement tonight that the Archibald Prize for Portraiture has been postponed. Entries were due in by the end of March. That has now been suspended, and a new date later in the year is yet to be announced. Queensland's Premier has put the hard word on anyone planning to go out tonight. Our reporter Reece D'Alessandro is in Brisbane for us. And Reece, what has Anastasia Palaszczuk said?
Oh, well, Georgie, she's told everybody to stay home tonight, and it would seem Queenslanders are heeding the warning. We're here at South Bank tonight, usually a very bustling little part of Brisbane, especially on a Friday night, but everywhere we turn tonight, empty table after empty table after empty table. The music is playing at restaurants, pubs, clubs and bars, but the customers simply aren't turning up. The Premier says she's sorry for this sad sight. She's sorry to Queensland's pubs and clubs, as she told the rest of the state to stay home. In her own words, a glass of wine on the back patio is better than going out with dozens and dozens of your mates. This as Queensland's coronavirus number jumps 40 to 184 total cases. Georgie, this is a sight that will become more and more common over the coming weeks and months.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, Reece. Thank you. A dedicated hub has been set up in Adelaide to coordinate South Australia's fight against the virus. Bryce Heaton is outside the centre for us tonight. And Bryce, this brings experts under the one roof.
It does, Georgie. The centre hopes to bring together all the relevant parties who are working on the coronavirus crisis here in South Australia, based here in Adelaide CBD, brings together all of the relevant state government agencies. Just today, 8 new confirmed cases of coronavirus have come about here in South Australia, bringing the state's total up to 50. One of those cases, an Unley High School Year 8 student who recently returned from a school camp on a bus with a number of other students, and that was just 24 hours before he was symptomatic, so there are some precautions being taken there. He was in a close proximity to a teacher who has also contracted the virus. And Georgie, tonight 26 South Australians are receiving treatment for the virus in hospital, but thankfully none of them are in intensive care.
That is good news at least, Bryce. Thank you very much for that. A downturn in business means thousands of jobs will be lost, but BHP has the opposite problem. It needs more staff to survive the crisis. Cayman Gok joins us tonight from Perth. And Cayman, the mining giants launched a massive recruitment drive. What can you tell us?
Well, Georgie, 1,500 jobs will be available. 1,000 of those will be in Queensland and 400 here in Perth. These will be 6-month contracts to cover a range of skills from operating machinery to cleaning warehouses across iron ore, copper and coal operations. Now, this announcement comes as BHP looks to put in place preventative measures during this health crisis. The company is introducing social distancing rules. That means more staff but smaller teams across different shifts. It's hoped these changes will keep operations running smoothly if a worker contracted COVID-19 and their team had to go into self-isolation. But the mining giant has also said there could be more jobs up for grabs later on, depending on how far this health crisis runs. Georgie?
All right, Cayman, thank you.